Welcome to Science with Soul. I'm Dr. Lottie Valentine and the host of this podcast. I'm a physician, evidential psychic medium, international keynote speaker, and author of Med School After Menopause, The Journey of My Soul, an inspirational story about transformation, healing, and spirituality, available online at Amazon as well as other online platforms worldwide. The inspiration for this podcast came from my own life experiences. As I have journeyed through life, it has taught me that we're part of a greater divine web of interconnectedness. I have walked the path of illness, healing, and transformation. After two near death experiences, I became clairvoyant, clairaudient, and clairsentient, and was guided to attend medical school at the age of 54. We will be meeting with many different types of doctors, healers, as well as spiritual leaders, educators, and other inspiring souls in this podcast. It is my hope that you will gain information and create a path to healing your own life, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, and bridge the gap between science and soul. If you are a person who understands the interconnectedness of mind, body, and soul, and would like to take one of my courses or work with me to create a path of healing your own life, please visit divinespiritualessence.com or drlottie.com. Welcome to Science with Soul. I'm Dr. Lottie and the host of this podcast. Today, I am so excited to introduce Pati from the Sacred Earth Foundation. Pati Turner is a graduate of the University of California, San Diego, and a biological anthropologist. After running her own business in visual merchandise for 20 years, she returned to college and worked at Scripps Institution of Oceanography as a research scientist. One of her greatest motivators was seeing the degradation on the planet caused by human activity and her lifelong desire to work in marine biology. During her scientific career, she felt she was not doing enough to help the planet, and she decided to learn more of the indigenous wisdom from cultures she feels live most respectfully on the earth. She is the founder of a nonprofit, Tierra Sagrada, the Sacred Earth Foundation, dedicated to the conservation of indigenous cultures and their wisdom. She began this during the time of her research career and continues today after nearly 20 years. She has hosted and learned from Indigenous elders from around the globe and now offers sweat lodges and programs of initiations in her community in Colorado. For more information, please visit www.sacredearthfound.org. So, a warm welcome to you, Pati. It's an honor to have you as a guest today.
I really appreciate you inviting me.
I can't wait for you to share with the listeners your knowledge about the earth and what you have learned on your journey. So, how did your love for the earth bring you onto this path?
You know, Lottie, after 20 years working in visual merchandising, and ever since I was a child, I wanted to work for Jacques Cousteau, and I was in love with the earth. And as I grew, I realized what was happening to it. But I ended up in a relationship for 7 years that ended in 2 days after I left that relationship. I moved in with total strangers. And during that relationship, I had decided I wanted to do this because after working in science, I realized I still wasn't really helping the earth. And I felt that all the anthropology I studied in college, all the cultures I read about, understood things. I mean, they could feel a snake a mile away and know to watch out for it. And we have lost that connection. But I moved in with strangers. 2 days later, I ruptured a disc in my back and had to go and have surgery. And I came home to a new home without my partner and laid in the backyard. And I swear, Lottie, I wailed. It was like every pain in my body came out my mouth. And then I felt completely held by the earth. And I just shouted out, show me what to do with Sacred Earth. I don't know how to start. I want to support the Indigenous people, but I honestly did not know how to begin. And so I went to bed that night, woke up the next morning to a phone call from a man named Stephen, who I'd never met, who was doing a film called The Shift of the Ages. And the film was on the life of Don Alejandro Perillo Oxlage, who is called Wandering Wolf. And he is one of the greatest Maya elders in Guatemala. And he said, I want you to be an umbrella for our film. And I was just flabbergasted because I asked Spirit for a guidance, and boom, there it was. I actually said to Steve, I said, well, what is the film about? And he says, look at the trailer. And I was just weeping. And I said, I need to talk to an attorney and make sure my nonprofit is allowed to do this, because it would be taking money in, as a nonprofit and giving it to a filmmaker.
Right.
So I go to an attorney, and he says, not only do I think this is a great contract they're offering you, but I'm going to help you and I'm not going to charge you today. I mean, how do you get a stronger message from Spirit that this is your path?
Wow.
And three weeks later, I was hosting Don Alejandro in Santa Barbara. And more than 100 people showed up, and nobody knew me. I had just moved there. It was amazing.
Wow.
But
Talk
the
about
biggest,
having your path
yeah.
laid out. Yeah. So what were you
But it's
saying?
on,
Mm-hmm.
it's just been the greatest calling in my life, Lottie. I mean, I lived in Santa Barbara for 7 years and always had roommates, and thought I need to have some land so that I can do these events, because I was borrowing places, going places. But I've just had so many miracles happen since I found this path. It's just been amazing to me.
Yeah. And so when did you then move to Colorado?
I moved in 2010, and in 2009, I had been hosting a ngangak, who is the only shaman left in Greenland. And I
Wow.
had hosted him like 4 times, and he knew that his people wanted to do a ceremony. How do I describe it? For the earth and for their people, because their people were wounded.
Mm.
And we ended up with 150 elders, and he asked me to help basically do the logistics. So I go to Greenland, and you have to go to Copenhagen to get to Greenland. So I go to Copenhagen, and I get in touch with a man that led tours to the big ice. And
Right.
literally, we discovered we had 2 days to get everything we needed on the last ship for the year. So
Wow.
we got tents. We got, oh gosh, we got tents, we got cookware, we got rope, we got toilets, we got everything we needed to host this many people on the tundra. But we never had time to consider food. So I get to Greenland, and I go to the grocery supplier there and find out if I buy the food from them, the people that live there are going to have to fly it in, and they can't afford to. So I ended up hiring literally hunters and fishermen. And I went to their school because the school would open after the next boat in the fall. And I bought everything out of their freezer.
Wow.
But we had the first sacred fire in many, many years in Greenland, because they had lost their traditions.
Mm.
And it was just magic. We had shamans from Nepal, shamans from Siberia. We had a marvelous woman who was Maori. And I just learned from these people how important it is to bring us back to ceremony and to give our love to the earth. And that's really why I love the Indigenous people because there's a lot of people that call themselves Indigenous that are just living our way. And
Mm-hmm.
then there are people like the San and the people like the people from Greenland, even that still live with the earth and understand the earth. And it's such an incredible wisdom.
Yeah. We've sort of lost our way. And were these your first experiences of working with Indigenous elders, or were there prior experiences?
While I was with the partner I split up with, I
Mm-hmm.
found the Huichol people of Mexico. And I was still doing science. So I was still going to sea every year and studying the sea, which I loved.
Uh-huh.
But I went and spent a week, I think it was 2 weeks every year for 7 years with the Huichol people. They are the only indigenous Indian people of Mexico that were never conquered by the Spaniards because
Hmm.
they went into the Sierra Madres. So now they're becoming connected to us, and I hate to see it happen, honestly. But they are the most marvelous people. They come up to my shoulder, Latte, and
Wow.
they spend every day around a fire and every day doing ceremony. And the babies are never off their mamas. And they're
Mm-hmm.
all together and they sing and they laugh. They are the happiest people I ever met. And they have no toilets, no modern conveniences. They farm. They are peyote people. So they go once a year to a place called Wirikuta. Can you
Mm-hmm.
still hear me?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You may have to cut. Oh, good.
Yeah.
To a place called Wirikuta.
Mm-hmm.
And what they do is the men take tiny little bows and arrows, like a smaller than a child's toy, and they hunt the peyote. And the communities come from all over because there are hundreds of tribes of them. They come from all over and they go to Wirikuta and they give offerings to this. And they believe the blue deer came to earth and brought the gods, and every place it put its feet, peyote grew. So they are
Mm-hmm.
peyote people. They do a lot of visions.
Mm-hmm.
I do not do plant medicine, but I believe it's a powerful aid in opening us up.
Uh-huh.
So
So,
being with them was
mm-hmm.
just incredible.
Wow. What would you say was the most profound inspiration you've had during this work?
Wow. Let's see. Besides the day I understood what I should do with Sacred Earth, I have I started doing initiations here.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked with the Shumash man in California. And the Shumash go from Monterey to LA. And I worked with the Shumash man there, who's become one of my dearest friends. His name is
Mm-hmm.
Art Cisneros.
Mm-hmm.
And Art taught me to never walk in the wilderness without leaving an offering and asking for help. So I was living in Santa Barbara and we lost 800,000 acres to fire. And I used to ride my bike up the mountain behind my house. And there was this beautiful rock there where I could do yoga. It was just big, flat and just big enough. And you're looking at the ocean.
Uh-huh.
And every time I went there, Lottie, I left offerings. I would leave tobacco around the rock and say, please protect this sacred space. And the times when I was lazy, I would
Mm-hmm.
go to a place called Stevens Park. And
Right.
there was this oak tree that had a perfect saddle. And I would sit in this oak tree. And again, I would leave my offerings and say, please protect this sacred space. And after those fires, Lottie, I don't even know how to describe it. It took us 2 months to be allowed into the areas. And I
Mm-hmm.
went back to my rock. And the only thing not burned was the grass around my rock. And the only tree unburned was my oak tree. And I
Wow.
realized, oh my God, our prayers are so powerful. And if we can help Mother Earth, it's through our prayers and our offerings to help her heal from all we're doing. I
Wow.
just hit the ground.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. And is that what motivated you to begin like your program of initiations or?
That was really profound for me. I tried, so I looked at all the gifts all the elders I worked with gave me, and they would always tell me, I want you to share this. And
Mhm.
they gave me all these little pieces of a puzzle. And I tried to start a program in Santa Barbara, and it was a nightmare because everything we did, someone would come walking up
Mhm.
and interfere. And so I'm sitting in a backyard of the most beautiful yard that I had planted beautiful flowers and had small events in my backyard in Santa Barbara. And I sat down one day, Lottie, and I said, I got to get out of here.
Right.
And it was just a calling. It was absolutely a calling. And so I moved to Colorado. I stayed in a friend's home for a year and rented. And then I went to a realtor and literally said to this realtor, I have no money. I have a good retirement and I have excellent credit. Is there any way I can buy anything?
Right.
Literally. And in 2 weeks, I was qualified. They have something here called a rural development loan. And before I left Santa Barbara, my friend Art sent me to a psychic there who said, if you don't, because I went to Peru in the interim, okay, 2 months in Peru. And then I
Mhm.
came to Colorado. And he sent me to the psychic, and she said, if you don't stay in Peru, you're going to live in the mountains somewhere where there are bluebirds, not blue jays, but bluebirds.
Hmm.
So I come with the realtor. The first house I look at is my home.
Wow.
And I walk up to this house and I open the wood stove and a living bluebird is sitting in it. And
Wow.
nobody lived here. So that little bird would have died in there had we not come. But on top of it, Lottie, I got my home for $475 down, and I have 8 acres.
Wow.
And I sat one night, it's been incredible. I sat one night and I thought, God, I would love to share everything these elders have given me and do it in a form of an initiation. And I also had studied many old traditions of initiation and really believed in it. And I
Mhm.
feel it's something so lost in our culture. And I kept thinking, who am I to do this? Because never will I say I'm a shaman, because I
Mhm.
have worked with true, powerful shamans. And I do not believe that's what I am. I do shamanic work, but
Mhm.
I am not a shaman. So
Mhm.
I would sit there and I'd just be terrified of thinking of starting this initiation. And I went to bed one night and literally all I heard, if not you, whom? And that year, 2 years after I arrived in Colorado, I decided I was going to do it. So I sent out my emails to all the people that look at what I do and ended up with 9 initiates my first try. And I walk down the street with them the first day they're there, and they have to walk blindfolded.
Mhm.
And what do I see but 9 deer? And
Wow.
it's been the greatest gift of my life. It really has, because it's a way to be of service. And it's just changed over the years so
Mhm.
dramatically. New things come in, old things go to the side, but it's been my greatest calling. And I'm so glad I finally got the courage to do it. It took me 2 years of
Right.
saying, who am I to do this?
Right. So what is an example of a program of initiation?
So there's a beautiful prayer that actually Alberto Villotto wrote in one of his books. It
Mhm.
says, to the winds of the south, Sachamama, great serpent, wrap your coils of light around me. Teach me to share my Shed my past as you shed your skin to walk softly on the earth. To the winds of the west, Mother Jaguar, protect this sacred space. Teach me to live my life impeccably. Show me the way beyond death. To the winds of the north, hummingbird, grandmothers, grandfathers, ancient ones, come warm your hands beside our fire.
Wow. Beautiful.
But it goes on. So there's 6 parts to it.
Uh-huh.
And every part of the initiation's part of that 6 parts. The
Wow.
first part is shedding
Uh-huh.
everything that isn't serving you. And it's very intense, Lottie.
Yeah.
I mean, they're screaming and pounding sticks by a fire and getting all this old stuff that is not of service out.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people in our culture today are trying to sit and meditate, which is a
Mm-hmm.
beautiful practice. But if you don't move this energy out of your body, it still hovers.
Mm-hmm.
And so every part of this prayer, which is 6 parts, so then they
Right.
go to the east, great eagle, condor, come to me from the place of the rising sun. Teach me to fly wing to wing with the great spirit. Show me the beauty way. And
Mm-hmm.
then you go to Mother Earth. I come before you for the healing of all your children, the stone people, the plant people, the 4-legged, the 2-legged, the creepy crawlers, the finned, the furred, and the winged ones, all my relations. And then Father, Sun, Grandmother Moon, all the star nations. Ah,
Wow.
teach me to fly winged to you. And it's just so beautiful. So
Yeah.
each month they come for 6 months. They come 1 weekend a month, and then they have
Uh-huh.
homework. And then they come again. And the
Uh-huh.
last weekend they do a vision quest for 4 days on a mountain.
Mm-hmm.
And I've just watched people find their immensity, find their power again. And it's been the greatest, I couldn't ask for a greater reward.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And what do people do for people who are not familiar with vision quests? What is a vision quest?
So we go into a sweat lodge on a
Mm-hmm.
Friday, and then they stay up all night with the fire and just pray for themselves. And then they get 1 liter of water, and I take
Mm-hmm.
them to their private sites up in the trees and up in the mountains here. And I make a corn circle with all these prayers of protection around them. And they are not allowed to leave that circle for 3 days and nights. They are allowed to have a tent and a sleeping bag here because it's too dangerous not to. It's
Mm-hmm.
just, you could freeze to death. You could
Yeah.
freeze in the middle of summer here,
Yeah.
seriously, because I'm 9,000 feet.
Yeah.
But they get
Wow.
1 liter of water, no food. And Native American people traditionally did vision quests, and they all do them in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if they're in a warm climate, they used to go naked, and they'd sometimes dig a hole and put themselves in what they called the womb of their mother and pray for 4 or 5
Mm-hmm.
days.
Wow.
I did mine for five.
Mm-hmm.
I did one for 5 days with the Huichol people in Mexico, and I was at 13,000 feet. And if I had not had a tent, I don't think I would have survived because it hailed at night. And then it
Oh,
would be 80 degrees and wind in the day. And I would just hover in the shade wherever I could, but I was in a small corn circle. And it was
wow.
amazing experience. It was a marvelous experience. I bury people in the earth with only their face out. I mean, they go through and they walk on fire. They do very intense work with the initiations.
Mm-hmm.
But through that work, Lottie, you find how powerful you are, and you connect to the elements. You connect to fire, you connect to
Mm-hmm.
water, you connect to the air. And we've forgotten all this. Nobody,
Yeah.
most, in many cultures, you don't grow up without this kind of stuff.
Right.
You learn to read, and we live on cement and run around trying to make money.
Right, right. We're so disconnected from the earth.
Mm.
Um, just the way we live, and I know our feet, the soles of our feet doesn't even touch the earth because we're always wearing shoes. We're just so removed from the beauty of the earth itself. Do you have
And
any
I,
special story you would like to share about either working with Indigenous people, people who have made a big impression on you when working with the elders of these Indigenous cultures?
the first time I had a healing from a ngangak,
Mm-hmm.
I was feeling, I was so excited to host him, but
Mm-hmm.
there was a piece of me that felt like, what am I offering? Because he was so powerful that I just didn't feel like I was offering anything. And it was frustrating to me. And he says, and he literally slapped me and said, "What are you talking about?"
Right.
But he literally waved swan wings at me and I became a swan, Lottie. I
Wow.
shapeshifted. I mean, he was the most powerful shaman I'd ever worked with. And he's still running around doing it, but he's having to do what we're doing, Zooms,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm so hopeful I can host him again one day. He's just magnificent.
Wow.
Um,
And do you
working with,
yeah, go
go
ahead.
ahead, working with Vladimir, who is a shaman from Siberia.
Mm-hmm.
Vladimira was from a very educated family, but she's from Altai, which is north of Mongolia. Her
Mm-hmm.
grandmother was a well-known, well-respected healer there, and her parents kept her away from her, because they wanted her to get educated. They both had PhDs and they got her to
Mm.
school and she got her PhD and she had a child and suddenly had cancer and was told she had a month to live.
Wow.
And she went into the forests of Altai and went to her grandmother. And now she's going all over the world teaching her what she's learned. I mean,
Wow.
she's fabulous. Her energy is so high, you cannot be around her and not feel uplifted.
Wow. And do you still host now that we're starting to come out of COVID lockdown and
Yeah.
the world is starting to return to normal? Do you have upcoming programs and classes, and how can people, attend one of your programs and visit you in
The,
Colorado?
the best way they can find me is to sign up for my newsletter on the
Mm-hmm.
website, www.sacredearthfound.org. Because everything I do, they don't get anything from me, Lottie, unless I'm offering an event, whether it
Right.
be a sweat lodge, the initiations, or hosting an elder. And I'll be honest with you, I've been doing this almost 20 years now. And I hope I host someone once a year, and that's probably all I will do now, because
Mm-hmm.
that used to be all I did. But
Right.
since I started the initiations and sweat lodges, my community wants them so badly
Right.
that I really feel like they've given me a wonderful gift, and I will be 70 in October.
Wow.
So I'm definitely slowing down.
Right.
And
Well, you don't look it.
yeah, and oh, well, thank you. But I still want to host some people, but
Hmm.
I'm doing less of that and more of the initiations and sweat lodges, because
Hmm.
that's like bringing people what I've learned from 20,
Wow.
instead of one. And and I'm finding it's more difficult to fill my elder events than to fill my own, because more people are offering things like this. But
Hmm.
if I found the right person that really had something new to bring here, I would totally host them. And
Yeah.
what they've brought to me and given me has been so amazing.
Wow. What an
I
incredible
host
journey.
I hosted my It has been, it's been such a blessing. And truly, it's like, I feel like spirit brought me exactly to what I was supposed to do. The way I got this land and everything that's happened to me has been like having someone grab the front of your shirt and pull you and say,
Yeah.
here's the way you're supposed to go. Okay, I'm coming.
Right. Right. For sure. I mean, all your stories, it's like you were guided. They gave you one little carrot at a time and said, over here, Patty, this way. So I will put the link for those of you that would like to go sign up for her email. Go to www.sacredearthfound.org, and that link will also be in the podcast notes. So you can just click on that link. And I want to thank you so much, Patti, for joining us today and teaching us about the sacred earth.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I have so much respect for you. Both of us went back to school when we were older. I was 40. You were what, 50? Yeah, and you went further than me, but
yeah.
But the experiences I've had were just, everything in my life has come together. It's like I was a very sad child that loved the earth, but was really afraid in my own home. So I would hang out with bugs.
Right.
And I've never lost that awe. Yeah. If we can keep our awe of what this planet offers us, Mother Earth gives us every single thing we have, including our computers. And until we understand the importance of that and give something back, I mean, even if it's you walk on the earth and you go, I love you, Mother, and leave a prayer, those things after that event, after the fires, I have no doubt that she hears us. So I just want to encourage people, lay your belly on the earth, walk barefoot, notice her, because there's so much healing there.
Yes. Wow. Just beautiful. And it's so important that we reconnect with the earth and the way we're going. It's, we're destroying the earth. So everybody go and sign up for Patti's newsletter. She's doing amazing work to educate all of us on the importance of connecting to the earth again. So again, thank you so much, Patti, for joining us today.
Thank you. It's been a treat.
Thanks. I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode of Dr. Lottie, Science with Soul. To stay up to date on future episodes and to help us reach a larger audience, remember to subscribe, review, and share this podcast. If you're a person who understands the interconnectedness of mind, body, and soul, and would like to take one of my courses or work with me to create a path of healing your own life, please visit divinespiritualessence.com or drlottie.com. My book, Med School After Menopause, The Journey of My Soul, an inspirational story about transformation, healing, and spirituality, is available online at Amazon as well as other online platforms worldwide.